I keep it going for your next storyteller. Honor, come to the stage now. Come on, Brooklyn. Keep it going.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, I'm Honor. Hell is surely a cold place. I ought to know. I grew up in Chicago with a mother who didn't like heating bills. Put on a sweater, she'd say, in the toughen-up school of Irish compassion. But a sweater didn't cut it. So we'd sit on the radiator till our butts got too hot, or we'd take a hot bath, or we'd just give up and get into bed. Mom was a tiny, mocha-skinned woman with a cruel streak and a ferocious temper. She was a direct descendant of the Irish Catholic school of child rearing, part punishment, part penance, zero patience. Borderline personality disorder would be my diagnosis. Irish on the inside, but something other on the outside. My mother's father was a native of the state of Kerala in India. And because he left when she was just a baby, she was sort of haunted by his absence, and so were we by default. I wondered about him, where he came from, what he was like, and I wondered what it was like for her growing up in Market Park, which is a neighborhood where Martin Luther King got hit in the head with a brick by white protesters. She would be out in the sun, and she would be quite brown as a child. When I asked her about it, she would sort of brush it off and minimize it, and say that he wasn't important, or he wasn't well, and all that stuff. So I was a young woman, a young mother. My son was 3 years old. I was living in Ireland, and I brought him to Chicago for the first time. It was summer. It was very hot. He was 3 years old. He couldn't stop moving. He couldn't stop talking, and I had it up to here. And I went into a room to kind of take a break. It was actually, we were staying in what was now a defunct convent, cum boarding house. And I was in the chapel. I laid down on this shag carpeting in this unair-conditioned room, and I'd only been lying down for like a minute when a voice very clearly came into my head, go to India. And I know you might be thinking schizophrenic or borderline schizophrenic, but no. So a few months later, myself, my husband, and my little boy went to India. We went to the south of India. And you don't know hot till you know the south of India hot. It is, they say it's not the heat, it's the humidity, and it's so soupy, the air there is unbelievably hot. Anyway, we were in Goa, which is a beach town. My husband wanted to do some vacationing, and I wasn't really interested, but I acquiesced, and after a while, it was my turn to do the thing that I was really there for, which was to find my grandfather's village. And all I had was a family name and a town, and my chances were slim, but I was very determined. And we went to Alleppey, which is in the state of Kerala, and I just started asking around randomly, do you know the Cheerios? Do you know the Cheerios? And so someone said, why don't you go to the post office, which was a good idea. And very helpful. And so I went to the post office and I asked the clerk, and they got out the phone book and they found the family name, and they were very helpful. They called the first number. And meanwhile, my son is playing with his dad across the room. It's like super hot, but the kid's happy. The husband's a little impatient, and I'm making the first phone call. Hello, do you have a relative that went to the US? No. Zachariah, that was my grandfather's name. No. And I begin to kind of panic because I think, oh God, what if the language barrier prevents us from finding each other? It could be them, and maybe they don't understand me. Their English wasn't great. My Malayalam was non-existent. And I'm really pushy, and they say, no, and they hang up. So they call the next one. Same thing. Do you have a family that went to the US? Zachariah, no. Third one, do you have family that went to the US? Yes. Zachariah, yes. Did he have a daughter? And the person says, Rosemary. And upon hearing my mother's name in a heavy accent by family I'd never known in the hottest place I'd ever been, I burst into tears. And at the same time, my son, who's across the room, lets out this ungodly scream. And it's the feeling, or the effect of it is that time or the past is sort of rushing into the present, and he's screaming and I'm crying for loss and longing for loved ones. and it's very powerful. And the Cheerios come and they pick us up, and they take my very white little 3-year-old son, and they put him on the shoulder of, great uncle, who's very tall and stately mahogany man in a crisp white dhoti and a button-up shirt, and they parade him through the village like the prodigal son. And they cook feasts like the best food I've ever had. And I'm convinced that hell is a cold place because heaven is hot and full of family and feasting. Thank you.